Hey there, Gemini. Welcome to your December 8th through the 14th, 2019 general love reading. It's Keaghan. If you're returning and you're one of the subscribers here on the channel, welcome back. It's good to be hanging out with you guys again. And if you're new here, I hope you enjoy the reading and you'll take a moment to subscribe at the end. I'm just going to give these decks a couple of shuffles here on camera for those people who like to see that occur. I'm going to do a fairly free shuffle type of reading. I took one of my decks and I just went through and I pulled out all the major arcana cards. I'm going to mix those up and pull out 3. And then we'll go through with the other decks and do some clarifying energy around the cards that come out from this. I'm going to move these decks off to the side here now that they're shuffled and ready for me. I'm just going to spread these out here on my desk. Okay, so Geminis, keep in mind this is a general reading. This is for Gemini Sun, Moon, Venus, and Rising signs. Crosswatchers, you're welcome, but be sure that you are watching at your own risk. Energies can be reversed in a general reading. Don't get hung up on genders. Don't try to force anything to fit. Take what resonates with you. Leave the rest behind. If this reading doesn't resonate with you, I'm doing weekly readings in December. And you can check out the first week's reading, or you can wait until next week and see if I pick up on your energy then. All right, let's see which cards want to be picked here. Drawn to this one. That one. Okay. So these are going to be the 3 cards that are going to kick off your reading. And then, like I said, I'll go through and clarify a couple of times with different decks just to get a little bit more insight for you. So, Geminis, let's see what we got here. First card coming out, you have Strength. It's upright. You have the Death card also coming out upright. And Temperance. Wow. Geminis, loving this. I'm not going to pick on you guys too much, but I just have to say these are some surprising cards for you guys, because this means you have made some decisions, you've made some choices, and they are final ones, and you feel good about them. Strength here, kicking things off in terms of the energy. I feel like you really did take a lot of time to, not only rely on your strength, but really make some bold moves. This card coming out right at the top just represents someone who's in their courage. They are going after things that they want, and there's a certainty to it. The Strength card for me, one of the things I love about it is that there's a certain type of commitment and conviction that goes along with it. And Gemini, sometimes you guys can struggle in making decisions, especially big, huge decisions. But in this situation, I feel like with Temperance here, you found a place where the twins agreed on something that was for the best, and you really did let go of things. The Death card is the card that represents endings, cycles coming to a close, big transformation, big changes. It also represents transition in your life. So the other interesting thing here is I feel like not only is this Temperance representing the decision that you made, you coming to terms with it and feeling like it was a good choice, and feeling like it was something that you had weighed your options, considered all the angles, really weighed the pros and cons of it, and made the decision feeling good about it. But I also think making this choice, letting these things close out, having this transition, really sticking to it, seeing it through, following through, even though I do feel like at times you were tested, meaning maybe it wasn't as easy for you to make it happen as you expected. Maybe some things went wrong. I think in the last reading for you guys, I was picking up on this a little bit as well, because I think I didn't go back to look at the reading, but I think in that last reading last week for you guys, it was that you had made these changes and you were feeling a little bit uncertain about them during that reading. But this seems to feel like you're back on track with it, and you do feel like you're sitting in a place where it's working for you. Temperance is a situation of really being balanced, and there's a certain amount of patience here. I think that where you're at, Gemini, as you realize that this is something that you're investing in for the long term. This is something that you ultimately, when you see this through, whatever this is, you know that it's going to have a payoff for you in the end. So I'm going to use my Rider-Waite deck, and we're just going to take a look at these. Clarify Strength for Gemini, December 8th through the 14th. Okay, you have the Magician here coming out reversed. I don't like this card, just to be honest with you. I love the Magician upright when the Magician is reversed. I'm not a huge fan of it. So I will just say here, in terms of this representing a person, for those of you who are dealing with this, okay, I get so uneasy when this card comes out. But the Magician reversed is someone who is a manipulator. They're a trickster type of energy. The Magician can also represent poor planning. So I'm going to go more with that angle here. I just wanted to say for people, if there was a person, an actual person, who was making this decision making this change challenging for you, making it hard, getting in your way or blocking you, this would represent that person. I really don't like the Magician reversed as a person, as an actual person in your life. So that resonates with you. Hopefully this person was removed as part of this decision making. You're not having to deal with them anymore. I'm going to make the choice here just so I don't get on a tangent and start ranting about it. I'm going to look at this in a little bit of in a different way. I feel like for the majority of you, part of what was making you have to rely so much on your own strength and really tap into that conviction to see this through was the fact that you weren't listening 100% to your intuition. A lot of times with air signs, you can get so in your head that you miss out on the intuitive gut feeling that's trying to show you the best route forward. This would just sort of represent a place where there's a lesson for you in this to learn a little bit more to trust your intuition. I think ultimately when you look at the situation and how you made choices and how it played out, if you think back to when you first were planning this or thinking about it, you had these intuitive hits, you had this insight that this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this is how this is going to go, this will probably be something that gets in my way, but this is how I'll deal with it. And then you started thinking about all the other ways that it could happen and making your plan B and your plan C. But really, when you think back to it, more than likely, how your intuition was leading you at the beginning is how this actually played out. And so this is just coming out saying, trust your intuition, don't be disconnected from it. When the Magician is upright, it represents someone who's really using their intuition to manifest the things that they want. And they're making their choices and taking action based on what they feel inspired to do, what they feel led to do. So I think this is actually just more representing the energy that led to this having a little bit of struggle, having a little bit of things that you needed to work out. But I feel like it was really just because you were in your head too much about the situation. Let's take a look at death. See what this change was. What are these cycles that came to an end? Clarify death for Gemini, December 8th through the 14th. Okay, well, perhaps there is a person here, okay? Six of Cups here represents revisiting the past, things from your past, memories, looking back on things. When it's upright, it does represent thinking back fondly about the past. It could represent that someone coming back from the past. It could very well be that this Magician is an actual person, someone who in the past did manipulate you. They might have been standing in the way of you being able to pursue what you find yourself pursuing now, and removing that person from this, finding the strength to cut this person out is what actually led you to close things out. Now, doing the reading the way that I'm doing, this is coming out to clarify death. So this doesn't necessarily mean that someone from the past is returning. It means that what you've closed out, the things that you've ended in terms of the cycles, the changes that have occurred regard things from the past. So again, this could be someone, I do feel good here with death showing up in terms of closing this out, because again, this person wouldn't be someone that would have been supportive. They would have had their own needs prioritized above yours. Meaning, if you had something that you wanted to pursue, if you had something that you were going after, if you had something that you needed, they would not necessarily be engaged in supporting you in that unless it somehow played out in their favor or they also benefited from it. Okay, let's take a look at Temperance. Clarify Temperance for Gemini, December 8th through the 14th. You have the Seven of Wands here coming out reversed. This is, this card itself on its own represents being in a situation of being really overwhelmed and exhausted and to the point of wanting to give up. I do sense this, as I was saying, that you faced a lot of challenges. There were lots of things here that you had to deal with, that you had to navigate. And I don't think this was necessarily easy for you. This was not, this death and finding balance and the aftermath of whatever it was that closed out. It wasn't something that was easy. I do feel like you were in a situation where you felt close to giving up. You felt very overwhelmed. You felt that, you know, maybe this is so similar to the reading from last week. So if you haven't watched that, go watch that one, because there's a similar energy here. But you just felt like maybe this wasn't the best way. Maybe this wasn't the path to take. And I sense like you almost got to the point where you gave up on it and you decided to abandon this and go after something else. But you decided to let these things close out. You really did embrace the change. And I feel like it led you out of this energy and into a place of balance, and realizing that there is good in this for you. There is opportunity in this for you, and deciding to stick with it and see it through. So let's go back. We're going to take a look at the Magician here, see what comes out here in terms of clarifying the Magician. Why is the Magician reversed for Gemini? Knight of Swords here, coming out reversed. This represents a place in which, like I was saying earlier, this is an energy that's very unfocused and a bit impulsive. But it also has an air to it. This Knight of Swords is an energy that is very restless. They can't stay grounded. They can't stay on track. Again, this Magician, if someone was manipulating you, trying to get you to do what they wanted you to do, trying to get you to make choices that favored them over what favored you, what would work out best for you, it was an actual block. This Magician was the thing that was making you feel unfocused, feeling like you couldn't get traction on this. And I also feel like this Magician created a certain type of restless energy within you, Gemini, in that how you wanted to be was really ambitious, going after what you wanted to do, focusing on things that you knew would make you successful, that would make your life more stable, really taking action towards them. But this Magician was a block. So if you think about this Knight of Swords is reversed, right? If it was upright, this is how I feel like you actually really, truly want it to be. And this card does represent Gemini. Okay, the Knight of Swords when it's upright is a Gemini card. This is, again, like I was saying, a very ambitious, successful, focused type of energy that's really looking at where they want to go, what they want to do, and making actions towards it. But it's come out reversed here because this Magician was what's blocking you. Your strength is actually in being able to think things through and make plans, see things through and manifest things through analyzing and mapping out a strategy around it. But this Magician was a block for you. It could be very well be, again, a person, because this does seem like an actual block in your path. But again, like I said, it could just represent being disconnected from your intuition and thinking too much about this, getting in your own way mentally. So if you weren't dealing with an actual person in your past, if that's not resonating with you, then know that this Magician energy just represents you being disconnected from your intuition and being in your head too much. But if it makes sense to make this a person, let that be the person. Regardless of whether it's a person or your own energy, you have thought back about the past, you've reflected on it, you've let that, whatever this block was, you've let it close out, you've actually moved beyond it, whether it's your own block or the person that was blocking you. But let's take a look a little bit more at this energy of the Six of Cups. What is the energy of the Six of Cups? What is it from the past that's closed out for Gemini? Give me insight into what's closed out from the past. Seven of Wands here, coming out upright. This represents feeling like you need to protect yourself or feeling that you are facing lots of challenges. This is a card where you might have some sort of competition that you're dealing with. Again, with that type of manipulated energy, your needs, your desires, what you want, what's best for you would have been seen as potentially competition or conflict for that person if it didn't align with what would benefit them or work out best for them. That's the energy that you've closed out here. There is also a certain level of energy here for you, Gemini, about feeling competition with yourself, feeling that you need to, achieve a certain amount or show a certain amount or do certain things in order to be accepted or in order to be worthy. And I do feel like you've closed that out, and it would represent a situation where feeling that way, feeling those types of things energetically would be something that had been with you for a long time. But whatever this is that you've chosen to do, these changes, again, going into this Temperance card, right? If you no longer feel like you need to compete with other people or one up yourself constantly, and you've settled into a space where you're thinking, I'm just going to live my life. I'm just going to focus on my life. I'm going to do the best that I can. And I'm going to not put as much pressure on myself like I have in the past, or how this person put pressure on me. That's what leads you to this place where you really do feel like you have more balance. Okay. Now keep in mind, you have the Seven of Wands here as well. So it's come out twice. It's reversed over here. Like I was saying, this is representing that old energy of just being exhausted and overwhelmed, feeling like you might want to give up on a situation. That's what's closed out and led you into this place of temperance. You've balanced out that feeling of putting yourself into situations where you do get burnt out, you do get overwhelmed, and you struggle. You're giving it has an energy here of really giving yourself a bit of a break, not being as hard on yourself, and you're realizing that that actually makes life feel much more balanced for you and leads you to feeling a lot stronger. You're able to accomplish more because you're not overwhelming yourself with that analysis paralysis of thinking and thinking and thinking and worrying and being so concerned and anxious. So I really love this reading so far for you. Let's take a look here just at this closing out of that energy and see what wants to come out as additional information for it. You have the Hierophant coming up. This is an interesting clarifier for this. It could be for some of you that you've just re-embraced either spirituality or religious practices, and that's part of what has brought you back into balance. The Hierophant does have that energy. It also represents potentially someone who could be like a spiritual type of teacher or authority. So again, you might be, some of you might have chosen to do therapy. You could just be reading self-help books or listening to people who are giving guidance in terms of that type of nature with spirituality. One other thing that's interesting here, the Hierophant represents tradition and institution. So that could mean a couple of things. For some of you, this might mean, like I was saying, you've just embraced religious or spiritual practice again. So you're going back to church, or you're embracing meditation or that type of thing. The Hierophant can represent a situation in which just things that are seen as traditional, such as, like higher learning, school, you might have embraced that. Regardless of what this is, it's something that feels very familiar to you. It's something that feels very stable to you. It's something that in the past was a part of your life. It was something that was routine and stable. The Hierophant just represents that type of energy of something that has a long history, typically related to a spiritual type of slant, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. One other thing that I think is interesting that I am getting from the Hierophant, when the Hierophant's reversed, it's really about sort of breaking away and doing things in an untraditional, unorthodox type of way. And when it's upright, it represents doing things the way everyone else does them, going about life the way everyone else does, a certain level of conformity. Now, as a Scorpio, typically I'm against conformity. But what I can see in this reading is that if you looked at people and you just realized, you know what, people just go about their life. They make choices, they make mistakes, they mess up, they figure things out, they move on. They're not stressing themselves out. They're not putting as much pressure on themselves as I have been. I'm going to try that. That could be what this energy is with a Hierophant. But it just feels very much like going back to something that is stable and routine, and really embracing that as a way of preventing yourself from stressing yourself out, getting overly anxious, and wiping out your energy. Okay, I'm going to use one more deck here. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to clarify each of these areas one last time. So we're going to take a look at that Knight of Swords reversed. That is that block to your ambition and your drive, not being able to focus on it. We'll just see what wants to come out to give a little bit more insight into that, okay? Clarify the Knight of Swords in reverse. That's too many cards. There's a big stack that fell out. Okay, one flew out. You have the Chariot, which is also reversed. This makes sense. So the Chariot in reverse represents being in a situation where you don't really know what direction to take. Your self-discipline needs to be dealt with on some level. So that could represent needing to not be as strict with yourself or needing to be a little bit more strict with yourself. I would say, based on the reading, it's being a little bit less strict with yourself, really looking at how much discipline you put on yourself and how much pressure I think was coming externally from this magician, and realizing that that pressure was really preventing you from standing in your own strength and manifesting the things that you wanted to do. You were actually exhausting so much of your energy from worry and concern and analysis that you didn't have energy to put into actually manifesting things and going after them, taking the action to move towards them. Let's look at the Seven of Wands. Keep in mind, this is that competition, feeling like you needed to protect yourself, really dealing with challenges and obstacles. You have the Knight of Coins coming out here reversed. It's so interesting. The Knight of Coins, when it's reversed, it talks about notions of perfectionism. It's another card for me that represents something around how you your self-control and your own self-discipline. It is an energy of feeling stuck. So if you think about this, you were feeling stuck in the past. You were really feeling like you had to defend yourself, that you had people who were trying to challenge you, that people were being competitive with you in terms of what you wanted to manifest. There was competition trying to block you and prevent you from that. And you decide to let these things close out. Okay? This is good. I love this reading for you guys. I'm proud of you for being able to do this, because this is not necessarily easy energy and easy things to deal with for a Gemini. I'm going to turn this light down just a little. It's a big glare. Okay. So let's look at this Hierophant, clarify it as well, and then we'll pull an oracle card for you guys. I do feel like this is a continuation of that first week's reading, but you seem so much more stable, so much more secure, so much more settled into your energy. And I do feel like your focus is coming back and you're starting to just get into a routine, get into something that feels like it's working for you. You've gone through a lot of change, gone through a lot of chaos. You've closed out a lot of things, and you've started focusing more on what it is you really want. And you're not putting as much pressure on yourself around, the speed at which you do things, or that notion of having to do things exactly perfectly. You're just realizing you know what you need to do. You know that routine helps you. You know that having stability, having things that are very familiar to you are good. And I feel like after all the change that you've gone through, rebuilding that sort of structure and stability and routine is actually really going to pay out for you and lead you to a place where you're really balanced. But let's see what's come out to clarify the Hierophant. You have the Eight of Wands here. This is really interesting because I think, Gemini, once you settle into this energy and you get back into the routine, the Eight of Wands represents very fast-paced change. It also can represent travel. It could be that you do some traveling after this just because you aren't as stressed out. You need to take a break. You need to get away. But what I think more so is just you're going to have a lot of really rapid change. Life is going to look very different. Life is going to change very quickly for you once you get settled into this, because there is a lot of good and there's a lot of potential waiting for you. And it's going to feel very different than where you're coming from the past, because you're going to realize that you have so much more energy, so much more focus to put into manifesting the things that you want. Now that you're no longer dealing with this critical energy, you're no longer dealing with feeling like you need to defend yourself and protect yourself. You're not putting so much pressure on yourself that you're burning out your energy reserves and you don't have anything left because you've just worried yourself so much about a situation. Being a little bit more laid back and a little bit more relaxed, you just realize you have this abundance of energy that you can put towards whatever it is that you want. And having that ability to do that really starts to make change and lead to things really shifting really quickly for you for the good. The Eight of Wands represents just being in alignment with being able to create what you want, being able to, it's this magician no longer being reversed, honestly. You're able to think about what you want, focus on it, put your intentions and efforts to it, and manifest it very quickly. So I want to just go through with my Oracle deck, see what wants to come out for you guys as advice for this week. Any advice or guidance for Gemini, December 8th through the 14th, 2019. So this one's kind of long. I'll hold it up for you guys here. So it says, my capacity to tune into the energy of love gives me the words I need when I'm ready to speak up, the compassion I need when it's time to forgive, and the power I need when I'm lost. Very similar to what I was talking about. You just are settling into yourself, Gemini, and you're doing it on your own terms. You're creating the life that you want. You're not answering to anyone. You're not explaining yourself to anyone. You've broken through of this energy that felt controlling. Again, whether that was a person who was controlling you or it was just your own self-critical tendencies that were controlling you and keeping you limited. I want to see if we can get one more to come out. Give me one more card for Gemini. December 18th through the 4th, or December 8th through the 14th. Give me one card for Gemini, December 8th through the 14th. The 18th of this month might be important to you because I just said it. So the more energy and intention I bring to my faith, the more fearless and free I am. This sums up this reading perfectly, okay? You are really, like I said, with this Hierophant, there is a certain level of you going back and trusting and leaning into your faith, whatever that is for you, whether that's religion, whether that is just spirituality, but you're tapping more and more into it. And the more energy and the more focus and the more intention you're bringing into that, you feel yourself just feeling more and more free, more and more relaxed, more and more fearless, and you're able to really go out and tackle things and feel really balanced about it. Gemini, I loved this reading for you. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'm going to end it here. We'll be back again next week for the week 3 readings for December. If this resonated with you, please take a moment just to give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment. Interact with each other in the comments. I love when I go and read the comments and I see the signs interacting with each other and sharing their own insights, because you guys know each other better than anyone else because you share the sign. And I just see so much good advice coming and going in the comments on the videos recently, and that makes me really happy. But Geminis, I love you guys. This is really awesome. Congratulations on this. This is a huge accomplishment, whatever this is. I would love to hear what this is specifically for you if this resonated. And I will see you guys next week.